Jesse Love is headed to the Cup Series. Is this a good decision, a bad decision, or maybe a bit of both? And why? That's what we're going to get into here over the next few minutes. Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Baker with SWN, and on this edition of As the Wheel Turns, we're going to talk a little bit about the news that broke. Of course, the defending Xfinity, now O'Reilly Auto Parts Series champion Jesse Love, at the age of 21, is now going to be driving the 21 for the legendary Wood Brothers Racing Team beginning in 2027 in the NASCAR Cup Series. What do we make of this? I've seen a lot of comments about this back and forth, good and bad. People wishing him luck, people saying it's a mistake, people saying it's where careers go to die. Well, this type of a thing is always more complicated than it seems to be. So let's just try to look at this from all sides and help each other to decide if this is good, bad, or indifferent. I'm going to start with some stats here. Josh Berry, of course, has been driving the 21 for the last few years, and I had a chance to pull together some stats for the last 36 races. Kind of surprising. Josh Berry in the last 36 races with the Wood Brothers. No wins, 1 top 5, 7 top 10s, and 13 top 20s. 53 laps led. His average start was 19th. Now, if you look at the last 15 races, Josh Berry's performance in the Wood Brothers car, out of 50 drivers, Josh Berry's ranked 41st. Jesse Love is ranked 39th. Both of them average a 27th place finish. The difference, of course, is that Jesse has had just 2 starts in the last 15 races, and Josh Berry has had 15. Josh has had 1 top 10 and 3 top 20s. That's it. Now, I think it pays us to zoom out a little farther, and let's look at Team Penske as a whole. Last 15 races, Ryan Blaney is third in terms of best average finish. Austin Cindric, 17th. Joey Logano, 29th. Jesse Love, 39th. And Josh Berry, 41st. So I think it is safe to say that Team Penske right now, with the exception of Ryan Blaney, is really on a bit of a skid. Joey Logano in particular has been bad, and the 21's the worst of them all. Now, we should say that while Penske provides a lot of the build and setup advice, the management of the Wood Brothers cars are done by the Wood Brothers team. So this is sort of a combination. Now, Jesse coming in, the question becomes, what can we expect just on the surface based on, recent past performance? Well, probably not a lot, honestly. The 21 has always been a good super speedway car. No matter who is in it over the years, it's always been competitive on the super speedways. Josh's 1 win in the car came at Vegas. And he did have a lot of speed last year, but this year, basically the entire Penske group, again, with the exception of Blaney, pretty much fallen off the track here. So I think that if you just look at what's on the surface, we shouldn't expect much from Jesse Love in 2027 because A, these cars are completely different. He's only had a few starts in a Cup car to begin with, completely different vehicle. than the O'Reilly car. Jesse, as hardworking as he is and as much of a sponge as he is, all you got to do is look at Connor Zilisch to know how difficult the transition can be. And I would argue that Connor Zilisch had what should have been, at least, a better situation to come into with Trackhouse than what Jesse does with the Wood brothers. But I think we should dive even deeper into this, because here's the thing about NASCAR and silly season and the way that the NASCAR landscape is in the Cup Series now. 20 years ago, when there were 45 or 50 cars, it was a lot easier for someone like Jesse or Connor Zilisch or Sam Mayer or, Thomas Annunziata or anyone like that to be able to climb the ranks and earn an opportunity in a halfway decent car. But now with the charter system, there's almost zero open teams. So the opportunities, therefore, are fewer and farther between. So if you are Jesse Love right now, at this moment in time, and you're trying to make a decision about your future, your contract's up at Richard Childress Racing, you're looking at what's next. What does Jesse Love see? What are his true options at this point? Well, of course, I'm sure he probably could have remained with RCR in the O'Reilly Series and chased another championship in 2027. He's still young, after all. Jesse also maybe could have run a partial Cup schedule with RCR and other teams as he has this year. Did he really have a chance at the 33 car? Maybe not, and here's why. The sponsors on that car are all nicotine and alcohol sponsors for the most part, and they want somebody that's sort of, well, Jesse, first of all, doesn't look his age, which I say that not as a strike against him, but it's kind of, remember when Casey Kane had Budweiser? That was perhaps the biggest sponsor mismatch in NASCAR history. It just didn't look right? So I think we ran into potentially a situation there with Jesse, which is why I think that Austin Hill got the call to fill in the 33 car for the rest of this year. I don't know that Austin Hill wants a full-time Cup ride. If he does, he's probably got a shot at it. If he doesn't, then Richard Childress needs a driver and may have to settle for someone who isn't his ideal candidate, but someone who fits the bill, like the best of what's available. We've heard about Noah Gragson potentially going there. I'm a huge fan of Noah's. Think the world of Noah. And yes, Noah's personality does more fit the sponsors that have been on the 8, now 33 for the last year or two. But I would also argue that Noah, although I'm sure he's probably no stranger to a beer, I don't know that he's a hard whiskey drinker. And I'm sure that almost probably none of these Cup drivers are users of nicotine products at this point. And so I think that's a tough situation for Richard, because Jesse, I feel like, was the franchise. I think he was the future of that franchise. I think Richard saw Jesse as potentially being, but again, you're in a situation where you're not going to chase away what I would guess would be millions of dollars in sponsorships from these companies because, it isn't a good fit with your face of the franchise. So once Kyle passed away, that put RCR in a really bad position. And whereas he had Kevin Harvick in 2001, he has Jesse Love, but the sponsors probably didn't feel like he was their guy, which ironically, I think Goodrich and Kevin Harvick had a bit of a similar situation at the a couple of years in the last time. So that puts Jesse in a very tough spot, because what is he looking at? If he wants to go Cup, there were rumors about Legacy, but now it appears Riley Herbst is destined to go over there and drive. And with the performances of both John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones, you're probably not going to see either of them go anywhere soon. So I think that if it was on the probability list or possibility list for Jesse at all, I think that faded. So where else? Well, it seems like there's a lot of the NASCAR fan base trying to get Alex Bowman out of the 48, which I'll never understand, but okay. I don't think Alex goes anywhere at all after this year. I think he stays in the car for 2027. I think Corey Day is the driver that they want eventually, Kyle Larson mentee, and I think that's who the big bosses at Hendrick are thinking about as the replacement there, if there's to be one anytime soon. So, but Corey's not ready for next year. At least I don't think he is. And I'm not sure that anyone really thinks he's ready yet. So I think Bowman stays in that car. If you're going to buy Connor Zilic out, which is the other part of that rumor, that would open up the 88. But again, Jesse can't wait around for all this stuff that may never happen. Right? So what options did he have? Well, he could have waited, you say. And I mean, I get it. Sometimes it's good to wait an extra year, but what's open next year? Where's he going? 48? No. If that opens up at the end of next year, Corey Day is going into it. Or Raja Karuth might go into it. I don't think there was any real spark there of Jesse having a shot at that. Connor Zilic's contract's up after next year. Where does he go? I think he stays exactly where he is. Red Bull likes it there, and I think Connor's just fine. I don't see him going anywhere, honestly. Where else? Okay, look at the drivers and the teams. Okay, Hendrick's full. Joe Gibbs Racing is full. Who's leaving? Denny Hamlin? Well, the end of next year, yes, but Brent Cruz is his earmarked replacement. Other than that, they're full. Chase Briscoe's going nowhere. And you're surely not going to get rid of Chris Bell or Ty Gibbs. They're full. Okay, so where else do you go? Where is Jesse Love going next year? Or the year after? There are just not a lot of open seats. And this is the problem with Cup right now. If you are a driver in the late model ranks and you're thinking you're going to have a shot at a Cup ride anytime in the next 5 years, I doubt it. You better be a Chris Bell that a manufacturer earmarks and you become basically their pet project and you're going to get there regardless. The next Toyota driver I see making it to Cup is Keelan Harvick, and he's got a while. So I don't think there's a lot of space here. Corey Haim's in now, and there's just not a lot of open seats. So I think this is a real problem, honestly, in the Cup Series, and I think the pipeline is broken. And so I think if you're Jesse and you look at, well, what are my other prospects? If I stay for a fourth year, what do I have a shot at next year that's any better than the 21 car? And from where I sit, nothing. Not a thing. Unless a big surprise happens, right? Which is always possible. But you play the odds and the cards that you're dealt. So that's why Jesse Love, I believe, made the decision. Now, could it be that there is more behind this? Maybe Jesse's been told that if he performs up to X, whatever X is as far as, level of expectation, if you meet X bar, then, in X amount of time, maybe you're in one of the Penske house cars. Well, that's possible. I hope for Jesse that's true. But in the meanwhile, unless the performance of the 21 car and Penske as a whole increases for next year, I think Jesse's he's certainly going to have a shot at Daytona, at Talladega, and at Atlanta. Jesse's good at Phoenix. There are certain tracks he just loves and runs well at. And so maybe, he has, but right now the competitive level of that car, and I don't believe it's Josh Berry's fault, but I guess we'll find out if everything else is the same and Jesse gets in and improves, 8-10 spots per race, then okay. But I don't think this is a Josh Berry issue. I think this is a Ford issue. And more specifically, I think it's a Team Penske issue. So where does Josh Berry go? Well, if Noah Gragson leaves the 4 to go to the 33, as the rumor mill suggests, which I'm not sure I totally believe that, but if that's true, and I'm not sure what Noah gains by doing that, to be honest, because again, if you look at the performance of the two cars, now when Kyle Busch was driving it, obviously there's more of a gap, but so maybe there is something to be gained. Is he going to win championships? I don't know that that's a championship car. So if he does choose to make the move, then I think Josh Berry goes to the 4. It's a natural fit. Josh, I think, was at least discussed for that car before Noah got there. So if you're Sam Mayer, if you're somebody down in O'Reilly right now that's trying to make that jump to Cup, and you're not Brett Cruz, I think you're in trouble. I think you got a while. Corey Day knows his destiny. He's got to wait. Maybe it's the 48. Other than that, who's leaving in the next 5 years from Hendrick? Nobody. Who's leaving for in the next 5 years from Gibbs? Likely nobody. I don't think anybody at Trackhouse is going anywhere. Ross Chastain and Busch Light are a match made in heaven, and Busch Light loves Ross. You got SVG's going nowhere, and Connor Zilic right now isn't performing well enough to have earned the right for somebody to spend big bucks to buy him out of a contract. And even if he gets better next year, where does he go? Where does he go? Where does he go? All of the big teams, Roush Fenway, okay, again, just signed Chris Buescher to a multi-year extension. Brad Keselowski, he owns the place. If he retires, I could more see them downsizing to 2 cars. And keeping Ryan Preece. Brad likes Ryan a lot, and Ryan's earned the opportunity to stay there. Cole Custer's not leaving the Haas ride. He's family. Just like at Penske. No matter how hard people try to get Austin Cindric out of the 2, he's not going anywhere. This would have been the time to make that move. If they really thought Jesse was that much better, this would have been the time to pull that trigger, put him in the 21, put Jesse in the 2, and move on. Logano's not going anywhere until he retires, and neither is Ryan Blaney. So what's left? Colleague Racing, perhaps? Again, talk of Dodge. That would put a couple more cars in the field. Maybe another team goes to Dodge, and that opens up some extra rides. But I think the Cup Series, I think we know who's going to be there for the most part for the next 5 years. I think there's going to be very little silly season. And, that basically obliterates the pipeline for the foreseeable future. Most of the next decade, I would say, at least half of it. Once this all shakes out. Once whoever fills the 33 or the 4 or these last couple puzzle pieces, I don't see anyone else announcing they're leaving. So unless something drastically changes, folks, I think we got what we got. And again, this is not an ideal situation for anybody really, other than Jesse, who is as much as we were sort of Debbie Downering the performance of the 21. Listen, sometimes you only get one shot at Cup. And for Jesse, again, you look around and you say, what else is going to open? So I think Jesse achieved his dream. He's going to race in the Cup Series. And he's doing it with one of the most legendary and iconic and incredibly wholesome and family-like teams in the history of the sport. He couldn't be with better people. Just couldn't. I just hope they can give him a race car and put the right people around him to let him grow into the part and reach his potential as a driver, because I've known Jesse a long time. I've watched him and been a small part of his development years, and I know what he's capable of. I know what his heart is. I know how intelligent he is. I know how hard he works on business and leadership and just soaks up everything like a sponge. He wants to do this right. He's a perfect match for the Wood brothers. The Wood brothers have not had a match like this since Trevor Bayne. And we all saw what Trevor did. Okay. And so again, it's been a long time since the Wood brothers have been competitive at the championship level. And they've got a ways to go. But I think before we all sort of pile on Jesse for making the decision, we ought to consider what he was looking at as far as a year, 2 years out. What's going to change for him? And I don't think there was much. He could go out and win another championship. I don't think anything better was going to open up, just because of the situation that we have with the way these teams are. And we've replaced everybody and everybody's signed extensions. I mean, there's just not a lot of, I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement in the next 2 to 3 years at all. Not for anything better than what Jesse could see the 21 to be. And he is still going to be connected to the Penske organization. So you can't knock that. So I hope this has helped you get to see a different perspective on this, because, it's hard, I know, for people to realize that there's more to why a driver makes a decision like this than just, I want to get to Cup in a hurry. Jesse is not that type. He doesn't jump. He was loyal to Toyota until Toyota literally said, nothing full-time for you, kid. And they threw him away. So he went to Chevy and to RCR and won a championship. Jesse is not one of these kids that makes rash decisions. Love to hear your comments. Drop a note in the comments. Talk about your point of view. Love to get some conversation going, hear what you're thinking. For more of this, if you like this, steeringwheelnation.com is our hub. At the SWN Media, Facebook, Instagram, and X. And until next time, I'm Tom Baker. Thanks for watching.